Good day. This is Matt Fox from frictionfreesales.com, and I wanted to post a hopefully quick video here that to show some different ways to set up ActiveMember360's login page option. There are a few questions I've seen in the Facebook group about it, and people purchasing plugins to create a nice looking login page. You don't need to go through all that because, a login page, all it needs to do is collect the username and password, and like you see here with the default WordPress login page. But some people want to make it all nice and fancy, and I'll show you a couple ways you can do that real quickly. First off, I'm going to, if you're not familiar with it, the member login form. This is the short code that you need for ActiveMember360 to insert the form on your web page. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to take this short code and create a couple of login pages. I'm going to do one with just a standard WordPress page. I'll do another with created with Elementor, and another one with Thrive Architect. And I am in no means an expert, not even close to being an expert in Elementor or Thrive Architect. I'm able to fumble my way through it to make things appear in semi-attractive methods. And I don't think that you need to be an expert in it to use it either. It's especially with a login form. I mean, of all things that you're going to worry about on your page, all you need is something to collect a name and an email, or the username and the password so that they can log in. And this can be any page, which I'll show you here in just a second. So first off, I'm going to go to this test site that I have all set up, and I'm going to go to pages, and I'm going to add a new page. First one we're going to do here is just a generic login page. And so I'm going to call this page, guess what? Login. Fancy, isn't that? So that's all you need to do is create a login page. What we're going to do then is, if you look down here, the member login form, you have different options that you can add to it to change the appearance, to make the buttons, to change the buttons and stuff, or not to change the buttons, but to change the ID, so that way you can use CSS to change the colors of the buttons and the way it looks. You can change the default from saying login to, I don't know, sign up, or I guess you'd already be signed up if they're logging in, but you can change it. You can change the labels for the username, the label for the password. If you want to change it from username to email address, you can do that by just changing a couple of the parameters that are in here. You can also set up the redirect to what page you want it to redirect, and it'll override what's in your memberships options panel. That's not necessary, since it's going to redirect to what's in your options panel anyway. So let's go through this real quick. So all we're going to do really is take a copy of this member login form. I am going to copy it, go over here to this awesome page, and I'm using Gutenberg on this. Some people hate it, some people love it. And there's a shortcode option in Gutenberg, which you can choose a shortcode block. Shortcodes are what we're using here in ActiveMember360 to pretty much give us all of the design layouts that we need and stuff to protect content. And then I'm just going to publish this page. And as you'll see here, oops, just want to open this up in a new tab so you can see what it looks like. Oh, that's right. It's not going to show. And the reason why it's not showing is because I am in I'm logged in as an admin. And so if you use this right here, so we force display as yes. So if someone's logged in, it won't necessarily show. If you're logged in as an admin, most of the shortcodes won't work, just because you're the admin. But if we want to make it so that it shows so we can see what it looks like, I'm going to do it, like I said, copy and paste that there. So I'm going to use the force display yes, so it updates it all the time. It says updating failed. Let's see. And there it is. That's all you need to create a page, to create this login page. It says login, username or email. And like I said, we can go through. Let's change it to, let's add this. So it forces display, and yes, I copied that. I'm going to do this, and we're going to change, instead of username, we'll have it say email. Watch, I'll update it again. It's funny, it keeps saying update failed. I don't know why. And now it's going to say, instead of username or email, it'll just say email. That's it. That's all you need to do. The button styling that you have here is going to become the default button color that you have in your WordPress settings and whatever your theme settings are. I am using on this theme here. Whoops, let me go here. I'm using WP Astra or Astra theme, which allows you to customize the way a lot of things look. There's an option here in the settings for buttons. Let's wait for this to load. And there's your default button color. We'll open up that page or that post that there's the button right there. And so from here I can change button colors. If you want to change the, notice it changes the color of the text in there. And I don't want to do that. I want to keep it white, so it's legible against that blue background. And change the button background color, so it's red or a reddish color. Not sure what color red is really. And then we can make it so that when we hover, it becomes a darker version of that red. How's that? Voila. So that's one way you can change the color of the button. It just basically depends upon the theme that you have. So that's all you need to, and I'm not saving these changes because I like the blue button bestest. Now let's go and so we have this page now that is the login page. As you see here, that's the text that we have, and I've changed if you remember, I've changed the word here from username or email to just email. And so this is what we have to make it show up and make it look the way we want it to look. Okay, now let's make a quick login page with Elementor. So I'm going to add a new page here. We're going to call it Login Elementor. If I can spell. I'm still working on that part of things here. And we're going to publish it here. So once we do that, Elementor saves things, we got to publish it so we can edit it here with Elementor without that. One of the cool things about Astra, which is the theme that I'm using, is that we can actually change some of the settings. So I can disable the title if I wanted to, or I can, because right now, let's if you look at the page here, we have the sidebar on the right. And if you wanted to, we could disable the sidebar. Let's change it with no sidebar. We'll update this. And I'm going to refresh the Login Elementor page. And there we go. It still says Login Elementor as the title, but now the sidebar has been removed. And depending upon the theme that you have, you can make some of these changes in here also. One of the cool things I like to do is disable the title if I'm going to use Elementor or Thrive Architect, because those are things that we don't need also. And there we go, refresh it. Now everything's gone. And so here's, let's go in now. Now that those two have disappeared, we'll edit with Elementor. Elementor. I don't know how to say it, but it's Elementor. Elementor, whatever it is. And then we're just going to do the same thing that we did the other way. We're going to, except now they have their own special blocks that they use in Elementor. If you are using it, you might be more familiar with all of these different options within Elementor. But all I'm going to use here, since we're creating the login page, is this beautiful short code, which is just like the block in, in Gutenberg. There we go. So I'm just going to hit apply. Sorry about that. I had something saved in my copy thing there that pasted over. And we're going to update it. We will load it, refresh this page. Voila. Now you have this Gigantor login form, because it's going to be the full width of the page here that is Elementor. And so one of the things that we need to do now is change the size so everything fits and looks nice and pretty on this page. So I'm going to highlight the element that we just created here, the shortcode element. I'm going to hit the advanced button, and I'm going to create some margins, which are the areas. It's funny, I just started pointing at my screen. You can't see me pointing. But I'm going to create some margins in here to minimize or to make it smaller. So on the right, I'm going to use, and I change it to a percentage. I'll say I'm going to change it to 30% and 30%. So that way, it only is going to take up 40% of the screen real estate after I update this here. Okay, and I'm going to refresh this page again. Voila, now it is much smaller, much more appealing, and it fits within the site. It looks bearable, right? There's nothing else to do on here except for maybe go to some of the menu options or look at the theme or at the footer page, and we can adjust some things here in Elementor too if you wanted to by putting a spacer underneath it, so that way there is the footer's pushed down. We'll update it. If you just want to use a generic page like this, there you go. Now the footer's way down here, not moved up. And you can make adjustments on your own however you want to do it. I'm going to remove this spacer and make some other changes here just so you can see what's going to happen when we start making some of these changes. So I'm going to update this. One of the nice things about Elementor is this responsive mode setting. So now we've added, whoops, go back here, this margin on the right and the left, and which means that there's padding over here on this side and padding over here on this side, which is this whole area over here and this whole area over to the left. And what'll happen is if we go to, whoops, didn't mean to do that. If we go to the responsive mode, we can see what it's going to look like on a tablet or a mobile phone. And what'll happen, as you can see here, is it shrinks down, and then on the mobile it's going to shrink down too. And actually, let me make one other quick change here. Since we're looking at this, I want to give it a border so we can see where it outlines. So I'm going to make the border solid. And basically what this is going to do is going to put a solid 1 pixel line all the way around. And we'll make it a neutral, boring gray color. How's that? Cool. And then how about we create a nice little border radius so it's got the little rounded borders. So you'll see what it looks like here in just a second. It's going to be tied up against it. Oops, why didn't that update? Preview the changes. Didn't I just create this? Why is this not showing? It shows here. There we go. Somehow the browser's doing some caching and it's not updating the changes when it's loading. Okay, so as you can see the border in it, but it's right up against the form fields. So the next thing we need to do is, because we changed the margins, which is the width here on the sides or the tops and the bottoms also, but I didn't put anything on the top and bottom. Now I need to do some padding in between that border that goes around the outside and what's on the inside. And so I can create a nice little 30 pixel border around everything there. And see if this refreshes. Should update things first. There we go. And so now that we have that padding, it creates a 30 pixel space or buffer in between a padding, as it's called in CSS, between the border line that goes around the outside and the bottom here, the left here, the top, and the right side. And that's what you see this 30 pixel padding is right there. Okay. And so that's what we have. And now if we go to look at this on a responsive, on a tablet or the mobile, it's going to look funny. So you see how the form starts to shrink down because it's still 30% of the page width on the right and the left is being shrunk down. And since it's a tablet, it's a smaller page, which means it's going to make the form smaller. If we see it on a mobile, now you'll see it really starts to make some crazy changes here. And so one of the cool things with Elementor is we can take this area here, and there's a responsive section, and we can hide it on the tablet or the mobile device. So I have this form that, oops, let me confirm that I've kept these that way. Okay, so we have this form here that is looks great on a desktop computer, but on a narrow tablet or on a mobile phone, it's going to look a little awkward. So what we need to do, what I'm going to do, is I am going to, if you right-click on this little pencil over at the right, I'm going to duplicate this field, and then go to the bottom one, hit Advanced, go to Responsive, and we're going to hide this one on the desktop and remove it on the tablet and the mobile. And then I'm going to go back up here and change the margins from 30 pixels or 30% to 10% and update it. And now it looks funky on the desktop computer because this shows everything on here. But if I change it to the tablet mode, you can see it starts to look better. It's almost the full width of the field here. And then what we can go back and do now is, let's close this out, update, preview the changes. I am going to do a hard reload to make sure that it, whoops, 1 second, right click there and do a hard reload so it clears out the cache on the computer here. And so this is what it looks like on a desktop. And one of the cool things if you use Google Chrome is that it has this inspector option which we can change and look at it from different mobile devices. And so this is an iPhone X, what it would look like on an iPhone X. Let me move this out of the way, since we don't need to look at the code. This is what it would look on an iPhone. This would look on an iPad mini, and you can change which way the iPad or iPhone is laid out by clicking this little button here, and it switches from left to right, or vertical and horizontal. Same thing on Galaxy S5. Okay, so it looks good on all these different devices now without having to do a lot of funky coding, right? Not bad, eh? Let me go pull this back up. And we'll go back into Elementor. Now, how about making this a super fancy, I'm trying to be something clever here, but let's make this something, you want to make it a real pretty, so to speak, login form as opposed to just generic with the header up here and the login form down below. One of the things that we can do with Elementor is change the page layout. And so it uses the default layout, which is the sidebars and such like that, but we can make it either full width, so that way everything is full width here and it keeps the header and footer. Or if you want to make it a blank canvas to work with, it removes the header options, it removes your footer options, and so now all you have is as you can see here, blank. That's why it's called canvas. Basically a blank canvas for you to work with and create a whole new, whoops, let me remove the phone options. And so this is what you have is basically a login form, kind of like the WordPress default. Oops, I don't have that on here anymore. Kind of like the default WordPress login form that you see here. But wait, there's more. Let us customize this background that we have here. And if I can't remember where this is, here it is under the style settings. We'll go to a normal background and we can add an image into this background. So I've uploaded a beautiful image of a lock. And since we're going to be, this is going to be the protected area, right? We're going to lock the form or everything here with this form. And so I'm going to use the top center. We're going to no repeat, and I believe it's cover, if I remember correctly. You get to watch me. No, I don't need any of that. Let's update it. That's not the right form. That's not the right one. Let me go back. Not contain. No. It has the cover option. And then we'll preview it again here. We're getting closer. So what we need to do now is make this a minimum height. Go up to advanced. I told you I'm no expert on this. Where's the layout? Content width boxed. Full width. We're going to do height. There we go. Fit to screen. There we go. So it's under the layout option and the height. Fit to screen. So that way everything looks nice and pretty. And then we're going to preview this. It should be the full screen. Doesn't scroll up and down as I attempt to scroll it. And we have the login form here. Obviously, it's got this horrible, it's basically see-through. It's transparent. So you can see the lock behind it and you can't read any of the words that are right here. So how do we fix that? We go back into Elementor. We go onto these two different form options. And I'm going to remove this lower one because, how do I do that? There we go. Delete this. Because I'm going to work with the main one. And remember, all I did was adjust the margin on this one to 10 pixels or 10%. And made it responsive on the tablet and the iPhone. And so I'm going to remove this and then I'm going to duplicate this one. So all I have to do is make the changes on one of them, and that way the changes are the same across each. So we're clicking on this, going over to the Advanced tab, and then the background for this area, we're just going to do a normal background, classic, and I'm going to change the color, make it a nice light gray. How's that? Beautiful. Apply. Look at the preview again, and there you go. A beautiful WordPress login form. Of course, since you're using Elementor, you can add tables, or not tables, but headings. If you want to put something else up here, you want to do something like that, you can do all that. But, oops, and then we're going to go through. Let's duplicate this again. I'm going to click on the bottom one here, go to Advanced. We're going to go down to Responsive and change it that this one is visible on tablet and mobile and hiding on the desktop. And then I need to go back up and change the padding, or the margins, excuse me, to 10% on the right and the left. Hit Apply, hit Update. Everything updates here. And then we can go and inspect it and see what it looks like on a mobile device. Let me hard reload just in case anything's stuck in the memory. And it looks good. Okay. Nice, right? It's not hard. It's pretty straightforward. And you don't need any fancy plugins. You don't need to waste money on other things that would do to create a silly login page, a simple login page. Not silly. I mean, you don't want to create a silly one, right? But that's all you need to do with Elementor. And then I'm going to go and create one, and then I'll save this, update it, and then we'll go back to our dashboard and create one now with Thrive Architect. Okay, so now we have created a generic login form on any old page within the WordPress. And we've created a login page with Elementor and made it nice and pretty like that. And now we are going to create a login page with Thrive Architect. So we'll call this one Login Architect. Pretty clever there, aren't I? And I will publish it so we can go ahead and launch Architect. The only drawback, I guess you could say, with Thrive Architect is that it doesn't have that canvas field. If you remember, in Elementor, there's an option where you can get rid of the header, the footer, and all of the elements and just have a blank canvas to work with. That's the only thing you cannot do with Thrive Architect. At least I don't know how to do it. The only other way to do it is through your settings. And so, like I said, I'm using Astra for my theme here. And with that, I can customize it and get rid of the sidebar and things like that, like we did with the one for Elementor. And that's what we're going to do right now. So I just removed the sidebar. So instead of having a regular, like we did with the regular page here, this is going to be a page, but without the sidebar on the side over here. We're just going to have the login. It also shows the title, which I can remove from my theme by disabling the title here, and I can update that. And then I'll just refresh the edit here with this, so it'll remove the title. There you go. Now it's all gone. And then we can start entering the options. And so one of the elements, you have a lot of elements to choose from. They don't have a shortcode element, which is fine, but they do have, because you don't need it within Thrive Architect, but I'm going to use a content box element. So what we have here now is the content box. It's just sitting here in the middle. And then I can enter the login form information there. And we have, when I save it, and then I can hit the preview button here, which will open a new page, and voila, we have full width login form like we have on all the other ones when we first start doing this. Now, one of the nice things, I guess you could say, about Thrive Architect is instead of having to just automatically create the spacing on the side, is I can make a maximum width instead. So I can shrink it down to, let's say, 600 pixels. And there it is. It's sitting like that. And then I can go down to the layout and position options and just hit center. And it centers it for you. And then when we hit save, we'll open up the preview. And voila, it's sitting here in the middle, nice and pretty. And then I'll do some of the similar options like we did in Elementor to show you how easy this is. And I will do the borders, a 1-pix border, make it a nice dark gray. Oops. Create some rounded corners. Hit the refresh button, and there you go. Now we have this, and it's all nicely laid out. Boom, you're done. I mean, there isn't much to it. It's very simple, very easy to do. I like Thrive Architect a little more than Elementor in most cases, just because I find it easier to use. I've also been using it a little bit longer, but again, I am no expert in either one of these. I can just pop them open and start playing and screwing things up. Playing with it, I guess I should say, right? So now we have Thrive Architect. Let's look at how this appears on mobile. Boom, there it is. And boom, there it is. So it looks fine on mobile and all of these. And I'm going to do the same thing I did over with Elementor. Is I'm going to pull up the Chrome version of it and see how it looks with all of these. And it appears to be pretty nice. Smooth. Nothing too out of whack. Everything looks good, responsive. Let's see how it looks on the Galaxy. Nice. Nice. So everything seems to look smooth without any issues on most modern phones, most iPads, most tablets, and whatnot. So it looks good. Now let's do what we did with Elementor and add a nice fancy kind of like the WordPress login page, but instead we're going to get rid of the header, get rid of the footer, and just have the full canvas. And like I said, I can't go and change the page here. In the settings, I don't know of any ways to remove these things here. If somebody knows this, please feel free to let me know how to do all that. But what I'm going to do, I don't think there's anything up there. No, okay. What I'm going to do is go back over to the page, the login page here, and I'm going to get rid of the header, disable the footer, feature image, there is no featured image, and I'm going to make it full width stretched so it is the full width of the page. Update this. Refresh let me save this here so everything's saved, and then I will refresh the Architect editor. And there we go. Now everything is gone. It's gone. Okay. Now we're going to add a background element. And that is somewhere here. There it is. Can click that, add that there. And the background element, I'm going to make it as wide as possible. In fact, I'm going to change it to %, make it 100% wide. And we are going to add the picture to it. Which is the background style. Choose an image, open up that lock image that we had before. Pop it in there. What? That looks horrible. And then I'm going to go back in here, drag my content box down into this background image so it all sits in there. And I'm going to go back to the background section, change it, it's 100%, and then do the layout and position, the height max. I can't remember how to do this. Hold on here. Nope, not that. Somebody's going to be watching this and going, what an idiot. I know how to do this. Where is it? Match height to screen. There it is. Bam. Stretch to fit screen width. And there we go. Now everything fits properly. I told you I'm no expert. I'm going to fumble around with this just like anybody else using it for the first time, except I've used it more than once, maybe 3 times. No, I'm just kidding. I've used it a few times. So there it is. It fits. Everything looks good. If I save it and preview it, we have our form here at the top. And just like with Elementor, it's got a transparent background, so we need to go fix some of those things. This is also stuck to the top, so I need to move it down a little bit and make it look pretty. So I'm going to highlight the content box, or edit the content box. There we go. So the editor area opens up over here. Scroll down to the background style. Hit just add a color. We'll make it white, just plain boring white. And then we need to go to layout and position and make sure that that is not locked. And then I'm going to open up the top, and let's say we'll make it 75 pixels from the top. Fair enough. Hit save work. Refresh the page, and there you go. Let's look at how this looks on the mobile. According to Thrive, not bad. And then let's look at the mobile according to Google Chrome. Whoops. There we go. We don't have to do any changes for responsive on this, it looks like, which is nice. Look at that. Everything seems to work peachy keen. Wonderful. That makes me happy. We have our login page for any one of these. And so now all you have to do is change. I'm going to go back here to all of our pages. And so if someone hits this page, you can either use your generic login form, you can use an Elementor form, and or you can use your architect form. And all of these can look the same. If you want to move this down a little bit on architect so it's in the middle like in Elementor, we could do that with some quick changes. It's not too difficult. Instead of changing the padding up top from pixels, open this back up here, layout position. So I change this to pixels. I can use it as percentages and make the top here, let's say 20% from the top. And then when we use it in the preview, you can see it's down a little bit further. Do the preview here. It's down quite a bit further. Don't like that so much. There you go. I personally like to use the pixels because then I know where it's going to be and find it a little bit easier to control some of those things. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Undo that. And I don't really care if it's down in the middle of the page. Up at the top is fine. That's where most people are going to be looking anyway. So there you have it. 3 different ways to create your login page. You can make it nice and pretty. You can make it as boring as you want or as simple as you want. Doesn't matter. The whole purpose is the same. Get the customer to log in or get the user to log in so that they can access their content. Go for it. Enjoy. Put these to use. And if you find these of even remote value to you, go subscribe at frictionfreesales.com, and I'll update you when I put out some new and exciting tutorials for ActiveMember360, ActiveCampaign, and of course other ways to help you sell more of your products, your services, so that way you can make more money and enjoy life just a little bit more.